Greetings everyone. In this short video presentation I will be covering the topic of ego-based self-esteem and soul-based self-esteem. Self-esteem is a phrase that's used very often in psychology and other contexts, and obviously it has to do with the self. Of course, this concept of self is one that we need to explore further. We often think of ourselves from an ego-based perspective, where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. A more soul-based form of examination of the self would consider that this personality self is sort of a temporary illusion. It's actually just an extension of one infinite, unlimited self that's at the source of all identities. As we go through our human life experience, a majority of the time we're relating more to that ego-based idea of self, the self that's comparing itself to others, a self that is constantly seeking some form of security or validation. Therefore, that ego-based self has a lot of difficulty maintaining stable self-esteem. Its self-esteem is constantly being influenced by its interactions with the social environment, with the external world. If things seem to be going as you desire in a relationship, then your self-esteem feels higher. If you're having some type of conflict or disagreement, some type of challenge to a relationship, then that could bring your self-esteem down. If you're making progress in your academic career, if you're getting some type of promotion or increased recognition in your work environment, then your self-esteem gets a boost. Whereas if you get demoted or fired in your job, or if you get a bad grade on a test, then suddenly your self-esteem feels lower. Again, that's the ego-based self-esteem, the one that attaches its self-worth, its well-being to things that are occurring within the context of this external world. Soul-based self-esteem would be more stable, since it relates more to your own self-awareness of being an eternal being, of being part of something greater than this human persona, being part of that soul self, that higher self that's merely creating this human persona to gain experience, to develop and expand itself. As we proceed on our path of spiritual development, we typically start to identify more from that soul perspective, and our self-esteem becomes more attached to the awareness of our spiritual self and less attached to that identification with the ego self. Since we're living here on earth as human beings in this experience, we're always going to have some level or some degree of attachment to that ego self. It's not a bad thing. We do need to be able to examine how we're interacting with others. We do need to be able to get feedback from our environment. And thus it's not bad to consider how you're progressing toward the things that you value or desire in this life. However, if you're overly attached to that, then if you're disappointed, if things aren't going your way, if you sense that you're not being treated fairly or justly, then your self-esteem can take a major hit. If you can revert back to recognizing who you truly are on a deeper level, then those challenges, those disappointments that come up in life won't affect you as severely or strongly. Therefore, it's important to be aware of both of these aspects of self-esteem to understand the significance of ego-based self-esteem as well as the significance of soul-based self-esteem. Most of us in this human experience would benefit from working more on developing the soul-based self-esteem. Ego-based self-esteem is something that we automatically tend to focus on a lot. We focus on trying to be a better person within this human context, achieving whatever goals we've set for ourselves, trying to maintain whatever ethical or moral standards we've set for ourselves, and so on. Of course, those are things that we can never perfectly attain or perfectly meet the standards of. So we have to recognize that there's more to who we are than that limited personality. As we maintain a healthier balance between addressing these different levels of self-esteem, we'll find that we have more balance or equilibrium in our mind and our emotions. We'll still have stressful thoughts, we'll still have emotional swings, but they will likely not be as severe, as problematic as when we have been overly attached to the ego-based level of self-esteem. In one sense, the ego is merely a construct that's necessary for us to adapt to have an identity in the physical plane, in the realm of duality. It's not bad or wrong to have an ego. It's just helpful to have that ego put in its proper place or proper context relative to our soul or higher self. We can use that ego identity to observe how we're functioning in this world. Having a comparison between ourselves and others, evaluating ourselves in that context is something that's kind of natural. It's inevitable and not something that we're meant to completely erase or avoid. However, we can learn not to have our self-esteem become too dependent on those comparisons. We can also understand that the source self, the divine self that we all originate from, is being expressed through every being, through every identity, through every person, through every creature that exists. Each one has its purpose, its contribution to the whole. And therefore, if we compare ourselves to others and look up to others or look down upon others, we may be forgetting the intrinsic value of each entity, of each being. I appreciate each of you for taking this time to watch this video, and I invite each of you to explore these subjects more, to commit yourself to your own personal growth and spiritual development. You are invited to watch more of the videos on my YouTube channel, as well as to visit my website at www.phinsights.com. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Jed www.jedi Holistic Healing. I would like to wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.